Hello, and welcome to another episode of Undiscovered Beasts and Strange Phenomena. Please join our experienced and knowledgeable panel of hosts as we explore the great mysteries of our time: Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and unexplained phenomena.
Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to our show. Tonight, Mike, Melissa and I are delighted to have the King of Capistan, Kipp Morrill. He's got a number of titles. He's the 8 times enthusiastic Bigfooter of the year. He's one of the few men who's gone pantless at the Bluff Creek Project. And he's also reputed once to have touched the hem of Bob Gimlin's robe. Good evening, Kipp. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on the show with you guys tonight.
Excellent. We've got a number of questions we'd like to ask you today to get you started. And I had a lot of fun planning that introduction, so do forgive me.
Well done.
Yeah, it was easy. Anyway.
Well, it all started, I became interested in the subject when I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, growing up in Redding, California. There was a lot of information that was available out there. You didn't hear much about it. You didn't have the internet, but we did have a bookstore. And so I remember buying several of John Green's books at a very young age. And so I had a pretty big interest in the subject. And of course, time moved on and I didn't really either have the time or there just wasn't the interest, and then enter the internet and Facebook and some of those things. And the opportunity came back that I could actually, engage in some activities that had something to do with Bigfooting. And it kind of started out, I think it would probably have been about 2010. I had gotten to know Bart Catino through Facebook, and then I had gotten to know Tom Yamarone and ended up getting involved with the Bay Area Bigfoot group, and it's just kind of blossomed from there lately.
And what is it about Bigfoot that particularly interests you as opposed to other things? Because obviously you have a full-time job and you're busy with that. And, is there something particularly about Bigfoot that really struck you?
I think growing up as a small child, that the idea that there could be this mysterious large creature that was just literally in my backyard was really intriguing to me. And so it's just I think it's just knowing that there's a mystery. It's obviously it's not it's become more mainstream, but believing and actually being a believer is not very mainstream. So that kind of attracts me just a bit. But certainly it's the mystery, whether it's ghosts or UFOs or Bigfoot. I think it's very interesting that there could be something out there that is, somewhat yet undiscovered.
How would you describe yourself, Kipp? I mean, are you a researcher? Are you a Bigfooter? I mean, you have some view on research and where it should go. Do you want to elaborate a little on that?
Well, I would probably look at myself, and I use this term quite often. I'm an enthusiast. I'm very interested in the subject. I have a difficult time. I guess I even looked up the definition of researcher today, of research in general. I was interested just to kind of find out how broad that definition is. And it was surprising that it was actually a little bit more broad in terminology than I expected. So when I think of research, I think of somebody who goes out to a particular area, who does 2 wood knocks, who writes down 2 wood knocks at 10 o'clock on a west slope at, on January the 18th, waxing moon, no response, or, somehow documents. And so we have some sort of scientific, credible evidence that we can rely on, that we can say, okay, it looked like we got a response at this particular time. Now we can look species of prey might be in that particular area at that particular time, what maybe had gotten the response. So I think a research with something more on the scientific terms. I think Mike mentioned that he looks at himself as an investigator, and I kind of like that terminology as well. So if you're going out and you're investigating, I think that's another, I think, a great term. I think the term researcher kind of gets tossed around, and so the non-Bigfoot world who looks at Bigfooting and looks at kind of what we're doing, I think it just, I don't know that it adds a lot of credibility to the field if we continually kind of use that watered down term researcher. That's my opinion.
Okay, so essentially what you're talking about really is when you talk about research and what you would like to happen, you're talking about compiling data in the field, so credible field research that can be analysed and scrutinised by other people. Is that your objective when you go out?
Well, it's certainly with with different groups of people that I go out with. When I find myself, I'm a pseudo member, I guess, of the Bluff Creek Project. I think it's really interesting. They're compiling some very interesting data. There's measurements. There's, of course, it's focused more on the relocation of the Patterson-Gimlin film site, but there's a lot of information that can be gleaned from that. Looking at the heights of the creature, looking at some of the known artifacts that are still on site. So I think that the Bluff Creek Project does what I think is fairly interesting and incredible research. I particularly enjoyed this last October spending time with some of those folks, but also with Daniel Perez, of course, the editor of the Bigfoot Times. He did some really interesting work trying to basically document some relics, some artifacts that could help determine what the size of that creature could be. We did some filming with an actual camera that was exactly like that Roger Patterson used for the film, with some basically trying to reenact some of the trackway using a couple of different lenses. So it was really interesting, and so to me, that's research.
Mm-hmm. And when you just focusing in on that, I take it you believe the Patterson-Gimlin film to be real.
I do.
Why?
I think that things that have really contributed to helping me believe would be a lot of the evidence that comes out about the fact that it would have been close to impossible to duplicate a suit that would have been that technically advanced at that point in time in 1967. The Bill Munn's documentary, I think, points to a lot of interesting points. I thought that going as far as looking at, the breast tissue, the natural breast tissue of the creature, and seeing what, I thought it was kind of interesting, but what a natural breast looked like when you do that stutter step, which I thought was kind of interesting. And, there's a lot of interesting things that kind of go along. Why in the world if you were going to fake a film, why would you make it a female? Why would you just add that layer of, I don't know, it just seems odd. There's a lot of things that point to me that the film is real. So.
Yeah, and I'd agree. There was one point, I don't talk a lot. Obviously, I do know Bob Gimlin, and I have hung out with him quite a few times. One of the points that he made to me was that Roger Patterson was what he described in a nice way, was a very average man. And what he meant by that was that given his background and his level of sophistication, he would not have had the technical awareness to construct a suit which was better than anything constructed by Oscar winners in Hollywood in the 1960s. Is that a fair comment, or do you disagree with me, Kipp?
I would agree with that. I think that the cost of putting something like that, I didn't get the impression that Roger and or Bob were wealthy people by any stretch of the imagination, and producing a suit would have had to have a huge cost, I would assume. I do find it interesting. There's sure a lot of naysayers and a lot of people that have claimed that they made the suit or they did this or they did that, but the media seems to cling to those claims quite readily. But it's not ever been. It's certainly not been proven to be a fake. But I do believe it's the real thing.
Yeah.
Now, the only other thing that I have a hard time with is that out of 50 years, arguably, that's the best evidence that we have. Now, there could be some really good evidence out there, but it's hidden in all the, pardon my expression, the crap that people put on YouTube and I'll just be honest. If I had some amazing find in the Bigfoot world, there's two places that I wouldn't go with it. The first would be Facebook, and the second would be YouTube. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, I just want to add a point that you made about whether Roger Patterson or Bob Gimlin were wealthy or not. I mean, I wouldn't pretend to be a scholar of this in the same way as someone like Daniel Perez was, but it's my understanding that Roger Patterson couldn't even really afford the camera that he hired, which he hired to film. So they were not wealthy guys. There's no question about that. No one would dispute that. The second thing is, I want to understand the personality. I've done expeditions all over the world, and I'm interested in Bigfoot. I wouldn't call myself a Bigfooter, but I'm interested in it as one of the many things that I explore. What I don't understand, and I've never really got, so maybe you can help me with, is why some people feel that their first compunction is to plaster anything that they find that's evidence-based all over Facebook. I understand nice photographs of places, and I do that, but if I have actually any tangible evidence, my first port of call is not Facebook. Why are people so desperate to put crap on Facebook, Kipp, do you think?
Well, I think that I think people want to be famous. I think people have a particular propensity to want to be special or to be different, and I just think that people feel that by putting it out on Facebook and getting likes and getting attention, that it fulfills some sort of desire or need to have some importance in their life. That does. I'm not speaking for everybody, and I hope that people don't take that as an insult.
No,
my use of Facebook, obviously, I think that we will all, if anybody knows me or doesn't know me, I'll just say it right now. Facebook, for me, tends to be, I've met amazing people. I've met people that I would have not had the opportunity to meet. So it's been an incredible tool socially to meet other people. The other thing is, it's my creative outlet. I enjoy trying to be funny. So that's my thing. And I don't.
Yeah, no, I'm going to ask Melissa to come in.
So you're not really a male model?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm not. I wouldn't say that I am, but no.
So is your Bigfooter of the Year calendar coming out soon? Are you going to be topless?
It's probably going to be another couple of years. I got to work on some abs, and I got to drop a couple of extra pounds too. So, but it will come out.
Awesome.
Just one question I had. Yeah, just one question I had, because I know Melissa's got a bunch of questions. But one question I had is, the Blood Creek Project referred to you quite often as Bigfooting pantless. What's that about, Kipp? Why'd you do that?
Oh, it was. I have no idea where. Again, it's my creative outlet, and I think at some point I decided that it would be funny to poke fun at at research, and I thought, well, probably there's one kind of research that maybe has never been done, and that would be sans pants. So I thought it would be interesting to just throw it out there and just to see what kind of a reaction it got from people, and it got exactly the reaction that I wanted, which was probably about 75%. I get it. It's funny. The most serious question, which would be, why are you running around the woods without any pants on?
There's always people who take it seriously. I just got a message here from a Bruce and a Randy saying, please don't encourage him. We're scared. Do you know anybody called Bruce or Randy Kipp? Are they anybody you know?
Let's see. Bruce Kelly would be, and it's interesting that you brought Bruce up. When I talk about the fact that I've made friends with people that I've never spoken with Bruce, Bruce could be this hot-looking 25-year-old living in Seattle, trying to play it off like he's retired and whatnot. No, just kidding. But no,
I tell you what, I'd be very disturbed if he is, because that would be the biggest. That would be the biggest Facebook scam ever, because he always appears like some old guy with a white beard and sort of like a sort of intellectual Santa Claus. I can't imagine him as like being hot 25.
You just never know.
Even I'm disturbed by you now. I tell you. So, Melissa, I know you've got some questions. I've been talking quite a long time. Do you want to come in and
Yes, I do. I've been dying to ask about some of your most recent trips out with the guys. On one of your last trips, you got to go squatching with Bobo, and a lot of us. I've met Bobo and spent some time with him, but a lot of people haven't. And I've never been able to go squatching with him. That would be fun. But tell us your take on what it's like to go squatching with Bobo.
Well, I'll tell you, Bobo is, I think, a lot of what you see on television, and that is just a really nice guy. He's very fun to be around. I will tell you this, that when it comes time to get out in the field and we're actually out doing things at night, he's very serious. But around camp or just hanging out, he's just one of the guys. And I really appreciate the fact that he's just, I wouldn't say, it's the fame or anything like that has certainly not gone to his head. I think he has a real strong feeling of who his friends are. Of course, he and Bart Catino are very close friends. And just hanging out with the two of them, knowing that they've had this long history together, is a lot of fun. They're definitely, you can see how they're a lot like brothers, and have a genuine friendship. So, did I answer that question? Did I just kind of pass that around a little bit?
Yeah, and that's what I mean, you can tell he's really passionate about the subject, so I kind of expected you to say that he might shift gears when he was, out in the field and become a little more serious and then a little more relaxed around the campfire kind of thing. I can totally see that, having spent a little bit of time with him.
He's got a great sense of humor, but he's just a really cool, laid-back, Humboldt guy, and he's a Humboldter, and he's been a logger, he's been a fisherman, he's done a lot of outdoor stuff, and he's got a lot of history in that area. It's really interesting because just about, we had dinner at a brewery before we went out in the field, and everybody knows him, and, people, they want to talk to him, and they would like to meet him, and he's just a really, really nice, gracious guy. There was a friend of mine that works in my aviation field. His sons love finding Bigfoot. And so this was about a year or so ago. We were all out in the field. I said, hey, Bobo, would you mind, if I shot a little video of you just telling these two kids hello? And he's like, oh, yeah, he's totally all over it. And so I recorded this small video, emailed it to my friend, and he was like, oh, my God, my kids were going crazy. It's Bobo, it's Bobo. I mean, they
awesome.
Loved it, and it was just really nice of him. He didn't even blink about being able to do something like that. He's a very genuine, nice person. He's a real guy.
I agree. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, since you've been able to go out with them several times, have you had any kind of interesting experiences that kind of made everybody raise their eyebrow a little bit?
You know, I wish I could say that we did, but I would say that probably the most interesting aspect of probably our last trip was the fact that Bart made Philly cheesesteaks at about 11 o'clock at night, which were
He's a great cook.
Oh my gosh, Bart! You know, when I start talking about Bart and his cooking, you know, besides him being completely handsome and hot looking to most young ladies, the fact that he can cook, it brings tears. It makes me emotional. But so for my birthday,
your perfect day, Kipp? Is it your perfect day if you were gay?
He's close. He's definitely close. This would have been my birthday, not this year, but last year. Celebrated it up in the Redwoods, and a number of us were there. And because he knows that I love it, and it was late at night. We went out in the field for a while. We came back to our camp, and there he is on the Coleman stove. You know, just he does everything very gourmet. So you know, he says, you know, don't burn the garlic. You burn the garlic, you ruin the sauce. You know, he's that guy. And the next thing you know, he's making his famous vodka pasta sauce at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and it's just.
Kipp, at that point, were you a bit concerned that there was just the two of you there and Barry White music was playing, and you'd arranged it that way?
Well, everything was cool until he went and blew the candles out. Then I didn't know what to think. So.
Did you flip for Outer Spoon?
Yeah, that's well. Yeah, so Bart's an amazing cook, and you know, besides being just a great guy, you know, generous to a fault, just a great human being. So it's one thing about bigfooting that I really enjoy is, you know, the bigfooting part. Yeah, that's cool, that's fun, but it's really, for me, it's an excuse to get out and be outside, going hiking. You know, Rob Leiterman constantly. This is my Rob Leiterman type of story. Hey, do you want to go for a hike? Yeah. How far? It's not far. It's just, you know, it's just a little ways. Okay. An hour and a half, 2 hours later. Are we there yet? No, you know, we're not there yet. It's a little bit further. And by the end of the day, we've gone on this amazing 10-mile hike. I'm exhausted, and I'm like, Rob. But that's Rob Leiterman. He's a great guy too. So, anyways,
awesome.
What you didn't know, Kipp, what you didn't know about that was that he was trying to get away from you because you had no pants on. He was more exhausted than you.
That could be it. Poor Rob.
No, I'm joking. Melissa, sorry, you had something else you wanted to ask.
Yeah, well, I was just curious because Kipp is a fire jumper. He puts out fires. He's one of those fire guys. He works for the BLM, right? Am I saying it right?
I do.
Is that what you do?
But I'm not a smoke jumper.
Okay, you're not a smoke jumper. What do you actually do then? So we're clear.
Okay, so I am an aviation manager at a state office level. So I oversee an aviation program, the statewide aviation program for BLM here in California. Not just fire. So, you know, it's also law enforcement aviation, cadastral, wild horse and burro, resource. So, and
so
I
now
believe
you're
I might have
super important, and you wear like all these big brass things on your shoulders, and you're on TV. You were on TV once. I saw you were giving a report. So you're super up there, up there.
On occasion.
But before when you were young, because you post all these pictures from when you were first in the whole fire thing. Did you spend a lot of time outside? Was that part of your job to be outside? I know when you're putting out fires, but were there other aspects of your job that let you be outside?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've often tell people that I've been blessed with a career that I don't deserve, but it's been an amazing. I've been doing it for 29 years. Started out, you know, on a hand crew. Extensive, engine crew experience, hell attack. I've literally been able to travel, around the world. I've fought fire in Australia. I helped out with a typhoon in Saipan, been into Alaska, Hawaii, all over the western United States, and so I've really, really been blessed to do some amazing things. And before I forget, I need to give a shout out to my 2 unit aviation managers who are hopefully listening tonight. They were going to, and that would be Eric Panabaker and then Ray Ucha. So shout out to my buddies.
All right.
Very cool.
Well, given all that history and experience and being outside, and then, you know, maybe not you yourself personally, but you've probably heard stories and stuff. We on this show we discussed, you know, a little bit of everything, not just Bigfoot, but you know, there's different phenomenon associated with associated with Bigfoot sightings and just weird stuff that you see outside in the woods. And I think each of us have had kind of some interesting experiences. Have you had anything like that being outside, or know of stories of really interesting things that maybe couldn't be explained or just kind of weird or didn't add up?
You know, excuse me, I've had some friends tell me some stories. In particular, a good close friend of mine was, and this is more Bigfoot related, so not necessarily a phenomenon, but he was a hot shot, and they were on a fire, and he was an EMT on his crew, and he was called to the top of the fire. It was not a huge fire, but there had been somebody in need of medical assistance. So he went up to the top of the fire, and there were two young men from one of the Native American crews from down in the Southwest. And one of them had lost some consciousness, and so he sat down, and of course he wants to know what the mechanism of injury is. And basically this young man had run into a tree and knocked himself out. Well, what happened was they were mopping up on the fire, he and his compadre, and they were up on the top of the fire. He said that they heard a noise, and they looked up, and there was a monkey in the tree, and the monkey jumped down out of the tree and started running. And he was so scared, he turned and ran as fast as he could, and he ran right into a tree and knocked himself out. So that's one of the stories that I've heard.
Wow, that's that's really cool. Where was that? Where would that have been?
I think it was somewhere up here in Northern California, and I'm not sure exactly where.
Hey, you know what? It'd be worth finding out where that was. You know, if you can ask the person who was involved in that would be interesting.
I'll have to try and do that. Yeah, it's been some time, but I need to get in touch with them and find out.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I had a follow-up question to Melissa's question, if I may. I just want to explore your views on this, because there's obviously different schools of thought in relation to Bigfoot. So what's your view in relation to paranormal phenomenon associated with Bigfoot? Is Matthew Johnson the savior of an alien race, or is he just a very naughty boy? What's your view, sir?
You know, and I want to preface this by saying that I like Dr. Johnson. He's always been really kind to me. I can't say that I agree with his. I don't. It's not my cup of tea, and it's hard for me to grasp what he's saying. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he's wrong. You know, it's what is it? It's if you believe it, I guess that's your reality, and I'm not here to challenge that. I'm just saying that for me and my reality, it's hard for me to grasp that. Now, when we're talking about, if we can expand a little bit and we talk a little bit about quote unquote, and I'm using my finger quotes here, the woo, talking about maybe the more I hate to use the term, but more spiritual side of things. I just don't know. I think that I tend to be more of a flesh and blood believer that whatever this thing is, it's extremely agile, and it's able to hide, and it's able to elude, and it's able to do all these different things. And I believe that it's a real flesh and blood animal. However, these claims of infrasound and some of these other things, I can't really dismiss that. I think it's hard for some people to believe, but I also think that being so incredibly in your own.
Opening my mind up to other things. I'm good with that, and I don't have all the answers. I'm a very fallible human being. I think the question I sort of wanted to moot with you a little bit, and Melissa, feel free to join in, is when a lot of these people who are involved in this paranormal world are special. They have some special power, or they have some special gift. And if I say, well, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, then my heart is not pure enough, or there's something that they've got that I don't possess. And that just strikes me as BS. Am I right, Kipp, or wrong? Yeah.
Well, again, I question when the only place that I really hear about it or read about it is on Facebook or YouTube. Again, I understand that those are mediums for people to reach a vast audience, but I don't know. I think that I would have a hard time if I was experiencing something that would be, I guess, seem somewhat crazy. I think that I would probably share that with extremely close friends and or family, but I don't think that I would be, like I said, if I find out something amazing, I'm probably picking up the phone and I'm calling you, Adam, or I'm calling you, Melissa, or I'm calling, Bart, or Bobo, or somebody who has an interest and somebody who I trust. I'm not putting it on Facebook, and I'm not throwing it up on YouTube. I'm just not doing it.
No, and I get that.
Right.
I mean, what? It's a quintessential point in the sense that I understand strange things can happen. I've done a lot of travel, as you know, all over the world, and I've seen some weird shit, and I know that. But the idea that you have some special power and that only you can see it strikes me as being very convenient. Have you ever come across any of these people, Kipp? And if so,
I think.
What have you thought?
I think that we've come across a lot of the same people, and so the usual suspects, as it were. But it's a stretch. It's hard to believe, but I think, as we know, there are a lot of people out there who are desperate to believe and really want to believe, and again, I think it's that desire to feel special and to be a part of something, which I understand. That's a human want, a human desire, something that everybody wants to be a part of something. I think we tend to be people. We're very tribal. We're very I think most people like to be around other people and feel special. So, and to be a part of something, I think that's what you see on some of these Facebook groups with some of these alternative beliefs. Everybody, you can get on there. I'm halfway kidding, but if I started, my pantless Bigfoot Facebook group and
oh no,
started it started claiming that I had some sort of divine intervention to remove my trousers to go out into the woods. At least get 10 or 20 people that would probably follow behind and say, I totally believe that, and I'm taking my pants off too. And I'm like, whoa, okay, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, I'd be added to this group against my will, I suppose. I suddenly see myself as a member of this, would I? Like I'm added to all these groups that I have no clue what I'm talking. I've never heard of places, and they add me to their Facebook group. Yeah, Melissa, were you about to say something? Forgive me.
Yeah, I was just saying we've talked about this before, and Kipp, your thoughts, just to continue on this a little bit. Extraordinary claim, proof to some degree, if you're going to insist that the rest of us are crazy or not pure in heart, or whatever the claim is as to why we're not successful. Yeah, right. So because we talked about, I have, as the creator of my own Bigfoot group, had people that claim to have this gift. get attacked on my page and stuff, and because they would make all these extraordinary claims, and I would go to them privately and say, I just want the experience. I just want to see what you see. And I said, I'll come to your place. I'll follow your rules. I won't bring a recorder. I won't bring a camera. I will do everything exactly as you do it, and just me. And I said, it'll just be me and you. I want to see what you see. And I said, will you take me? And the answer, this has happened on 2 different occasions with 2 different people, and the answer is always no. that they are their Bigfoot creatures, but that if I want to bring them to my area, they can call them out, or whatever it is. So I just always find that really, really interesting. So if you're going to make these extraordinary claims, then at least, that's fine. If you want to make these claims, make these claims. But if you're going to, browbeat everyone else into saying that they're not, pure in heart,
show me the money,
it wrong or whatever.
So just, show me the money. Show me what it is.
Right.
I mean, it's, I do think, when we talk about sighting reports, they're very subjective, obviously. But what I've learned about sighting reports just from people that I've talked to that have had these encounters is that it's a very personal experience. And I know a number of people that, I think the ones that add to me seem more credible are the ones where it's very difficult for them to come out and talk about it. I think that we would all
or if
agree.
Their behavior is forever changed, if they're if they, I've talked to several hunters that grew up in the backwoods of South Georgia or whatever, and they hunted those woods their whole lives, and then they had an encounter, and they won't ever go back in the woods again. So these are big, strong, burly men that aren't afraid of anything.
My cousin who had an encounter when she was quite young, but she's just turned 50 years old, or she's about my age, and when she talks about this, even though she was about 10 or 11 years old when it happened, she gets emotional about it, and she basically has said that her life changed that day because she understood that monsters were real. That's her words. So, it's a very personal experience, I think. And I think that when people are less likely to want to talk about it, to me, that kind of, not that people who do want to talk about it, who want to find the answers, aren't also credible, but certainly, I definitely think that these people that are reluctant, the deputy sheriff that wouldn't talk about the experience they had, until they had retired because they didn't want to come across as seeming crazy. But I know what I saw, and I know what it wasn't, but I don't know what it was, and I'm telling you what I saw. Those types of stories, and there's a number of those out there, and I think for every one of those type of encounters or one of those stories, I'm sure there's 10 or more of encounters that occur that people just never talk about because they don't want to they don't want to be ridiculed, they don't want to come across as crazy.
So, we talked a little bit about the credibility of sightings and how you make that assessment. What is Bigfoot then? What is it?
It's so interesting that, again, sighting reports are so subjective. You hear maybe a sighting report in East Texas, and oh my goodness, they were very aggressive. They had this appearance. They had this look. To Pacific Northwest, where it was a flat nose or it was a bigger nose. I think that what we're dealing with is potentially a relic species, a species that perhaps we are more closely related to, but has kind of maybe gone through the evolutionary process, maybe somewhat parallel to us, not necessarily with us. But yeah, and this comes back to whether or not I question myself sometimes. do I really want to have a sighting? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think that I do.
That was going to be my follow-up question. Because it sometimes seems to me, and I mean it's really nice that you're into the camaraderie, you love the camp out, you love the adventure. It seems to me, you don't always want a sighting. And why is that?
I think that it could be life-changing. It could be, and I don't know that it could be that it's always life-changing in the positive. I think there can be negative connotations that maybe could come from it. I'd like to think that I want to be using the term a knower. I believe, but I don't know. And I think I would like to be a knower, but there are times when I have to question myself, oh gosh, do I really want to have this experience? I know that it's changed a lot of lives. I think at the end of the day, the answer is yes. I would like to see one. I would like to be able to, with my own two eyes, say, okay, I'm not crazy. Not that I believe that the people who I know and who are friends of mine have had sightings. I believe them, but I want to be a knower with them, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know that seems a bit wishy-washy, but there are times when I'm out there in the woods and I'm with people, but it's dark and it's I'm sure it would probably scare me half to death, but it would be one of those very interesting experiences.
Have you ever given any thought to what you would do if one actually crossed your path in the dark as you were walking down a trail, or you came?
I would probably drop my pants. No, just kidding. I think, I'd like to think that I would have some sort of wherewithal to try and say, hey, stop or something, and, try and get that camera phone out. I don't know. I think that, it's such a personal thing again. I think even if I couldn't, and I'm going to be honest with you all, my interest in the subject is, for the most part, fairly selfish. I'm in it for me. I would like to have, I'd like to have the proof for myself so that I know, the benefit of that. If I get a picture or I have some sort of proof that I get to share with people that are close to me, then that's the bonus. But from that aspect of it, that endeavor of mine is probably somewhat selfish. Now, having said that, I enjoy going out in the woods and spending time with all my friends, and bigfooting is to me often the secondary aspect of all that. But and I'm there to help them. So, if sometimes I'm the person that's dropping people off at the trailhead so that they can hike in and then picking them up on the other end. I help facilitate other people's, bigfooting missions, I guess. And I'm okay with that. I don't mind. Sometimes I'm the guy that's getting dropped off at the trailhead and being picked up on the other end. So, I guess selfishly I'm in it for me, but I'm also a team player.
Okay.
I think that's totally reasonable. Yeah.
So when we think about this creature, you described it as being more gorilla-like. Is it as intelligent as us, or less intelligent? Do you think, Kipp?
I think it depends on who you talk to. I think that something that can elude people are rather intelligent in some ways to be able to survive. I guess things that I'm not sure about intelligence is maybe, if we're talking about a creature that does not have the ability to create fire, that hasn't, there's anecdotal reports that talk about seeing them with a spear or throwing it sounds like they've got incredible skill at throwing rocks and things like that, but, creating tools. So I don't know. And I don't know if that's that kind of evolutionary advancement, if it's fair to call them intelligent or not intelligent because of that. But those are certainly things that kind of come into my mind.
And when we think about this creature, when we think about it in the future, where do you see the future of Bigfooting going? I mean, do you feel we're going in the right direction? We're going in the wrong direction? Where do you see it moving?
Well, I honestly, I think that weekend type of expeditions are going to be hit and miss. I think eventually, at some point, if it's going to take money and it's going to take time and it's going to take people, my dream has been, if somebody said, "Hey, well, what would it look like for you if money was no object, and what would you do?" And I would have to think, my idea is to have 3 select camps of 3 to 4 people within within 10 miles of each other, helicoptered into a wilderness area, dropped off supplies, and set up for the long term, and set up for months at a time, become interesting, see if something could come in and be curious about what you're doing, document photos, document in writing, document just every aspect of what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it. And that takes, of course, money, people, and time. And I think until we have that kind of dedication, we have some really good projects out there. The Bluff Creek Project is a really good example. The Olympic Project, what Derek Randalls and those folks are doing, and Shane Course and those guys, that is just amazing. We look at Area X, and we look at what they're doing over in Oklahoma. Kathy and Bob Strain doing work back there. It's amazing. And I think that those types of endeavors will hopefully eventually, give us more data, more information, and further us along in trying to solve the mystery. But I just think it's going to take, some serious quan and time and people to be able to get that done. Of course, Wally Hersom has been, incredible benefactor and generous with his time and his funds to help, in various endeavors. But, we'll see. We'll see.
Now,
so Kipp,
go for it, Melissa.
So Kipp, who, if you could draw straws or pick names, who would you love? What's your ideal Bigfoot team? Names, whoever. What?
Oh gosh.
Who do you think would be the most successful?
There are definitely certain people for different reasons. But when I think about hardcore researchers, I think of Bart Catino, Randalls. I think of Todd Neese, and I know ultimately I'm going to probably leave some people out. Rob Leiterman, Rowdy Kelly, Jamie Wayne, he likes to be called. There's some people. I think that if you had an opportunity to pull people in with a particular skill set, yourself, Adam, you could probably put together quite a team for sure. But if
so we
if
just
I
need
had
to get
to
a
go
backer, and we need to do your camp setup. And take
yeah,
all those
no
people.
kidding. And I just
and
need
then
all those
be
people.
the Bigfoot dream team, right? So that would be
and,
awesome.
And although I've not met him, but just a couple of times, but Cliff Barrickman is just he does it right. His expeditions and his seriousness. He's a very intelligent, well-spoken man, and I think that somebody like him who would be great. Bobo would be fantastic. So, yeah, I'm sure I left some people out, but I'm sure I'll hear about it later. And can I just give a really? I do just want to give a really big shout out. I've had some less than positive experiences when it comes to some of these different conferences, but I have to say, without a doubt, the one event that I love attending every year, and I have made it a priority now to come up on my 3rd year, is Beachfoot. And I just really, really want to give Todd and Diane a huge shout out. two of the
Yes.
just the most generous, to a fault, people who put their heart and soul into that event. And the 2 years that I've been, it's just been amazing. The quality people and the level of just fun. So I did want to give a shout out on that.
Yes, we love you, Todd and Diane, and we love Beachfoot. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it. So, in terms of when you talk about those areas, and you talk about what you'd like to do in research, where would you do it, Kipp? So you've got unlimited money. You can choose your team. Where are they going?
Well, can I pick about 3 different places?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think that we talk about the big thicket and we talk about East Texas. I think that's just seems like a hotbed, and it definitely seems to have the more aggressive type reports. So I think there would be interesting. Another place I would really, really like to get people into would be, the Trinity Alps and the Trinity Wilderness, and probably moving up north, someplace maybe up in the Washington Canadian border, or even up into British Columbia. And actually, if we're talking about thinking about different research, we have these huge fire scars now from the Biscuit Fire. That would be up in Northwest California, Southwest Oregon, and I'm going to screw up the name because even though I flew over it a bunch of times, the Camelopolis Wilderness, where the Biscuit Fire. I know I just butchered the name, but
no, that's right.
Okay. but some of these vast areas that have had these huge burns that have come through, and we all know, how devastating these fires can be. But what they also bring behind is, fresh growth and, this succession of plant species that come back in if they're not replanted with trees. You have your brush species, and then, your blackberry bushes, and then that attracts different types of game species and the deer. So, some of those places and some of the edge effects that those places have where the burn area, the aggressive burn area meets, unaffected timber. I think that there's probably a lot to be learned and a lot to be potentially seen from those types of areas. So, be interesting to see if there's more research in and around burned areas, and as they, in that first year, the 5th year, the 10th year, what kind of sighting reports come out of those types of places, and whether or not those would be feasible to investigate.
Good stuff. So you're fairly, forgive me, you're fairly near retirement. How long have you got to go?
Repeat that question one more time, Adam. Sorry.
You're fairly near retirement. How long have you got to go, Kipp?
Not like I'm counting, but 3 years, 5 months, 17 days. So I'm preparing for hopefully a very action-packed, fun retirement from the fire service. So
yes, that was my question. So, how much of your time, given it's not that long, do you see this as being something that you pursue most of your time, or is it going to be something that you're just going to do every now and again once you retire? Is this going to be your retirement passion, I guess, is what I'm asking?
So my wife, she and I are going to be retiring about the same time. She is a biologist by trade, but she also works in the fire world. She is more of a naturalist than I, and so she's an artist. She's into nature journaling, and she's way too attractive for me, way too smart. but luckily she had a lapse in judgment and decided to give me a shot, 25 years ago. So here we are. But, I think that we both will probably be supportive of each other's passions and interests and hobbies. And so it will always continue to be something I will be interested in. And I think that perhaps into retirement, I think that our hobbies and the things that we're interested in are close enough that we may be able to do both. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
That'll be good. I mean, and is she interested in the subject, or is it just not her thing?
It's not her thing. She is a healthy skeptic when it comes to Bigfoot. She definitely, I think she's open, but I think that when she looks at evidence and things to do with Bigfoot, I think that it's harder for her from that scientific, core science type of background. I think it's harder for her to accept that maybe something like that is out there. I said, well, what about these reports? And it's interesting because I forced her to tag along with me to the first Bigfoot conference that I went to up in Washington State, and one of the presenters was the Sierra Sounds. And forgive me, I can't think of the gentleman's name right now. Ron Moorhead. A really nice gentleman, but his Sierra Sounds, and then forgive me, here I go again. The other gentleman that translated them, or at least
Scott.
Yes,
Nelson.
Yes, Scott Nelson. Their presentation was very interesting to her, and she walked away thinking that was rather interesting evidence. So I think she's open to it, but I think she has a hard time with with a scientific mind, that it's a little harder for her to open up to something like that.
No, that's fair enough. But so
I will say this, if I can tell you a quick what I would call a quote unquote UFO story that we both had, if you'd like to hear that.
Why not? Yeah.
So this was several years ago, and we were living in Orland, California, and it was a perfect, amazing, just clear night, no moon, and we're sitting in our hot tub. And the only light around us was a light from the street that on our street was just on the other side. And I was facing north, and she was facing the south, and we were sitting in the bubbles. And the only reason I noticed that there was something moving in the sky was that I could see that the stars were getting blocked out, and that was really the only light that I could see where something was blocking the light. And so I noticed, and it's getting closer, and it's getting closer. And so I said, turn around. I said, do you see what I'm looking at? And she said, yeah. Meanwhile, it's moving closer, and it's moving north to south, and I'm looking to the north, and I'm watching it. As it gets closer, it's a triangular craft. There's no lights on this thing, and it's completely silent. And as it passes over us, because it did, it was low enough that the street light illuminated the bottom of the craft. It was perfectly black, and it passed north to south. And she saw it, and I saw it. And so I'm not saying it was alien. I think that, my logical explanation is that it was something that we just don't know about yet, some sort of technology, that it was running north to south, and kind of as it was maybe a mile to the east of Interstate 5, which is a main thoroughfare. And so I think that the potential exists that maybe it was utilizing that highway or that freeway as a source of navigation. So, but nonetheless, we both had that experience. So,
yeah, it could well be an unknown military craft. That sounds like to me. I mean, it's a fascinating story. It's one I'd love to explore with you again. I'm sure we would. We've pretty much run out of time. We're right at the end of the show now. I'd like to thank on behalf of Melissa and
Nadia wants to say hi. Looking forward to seeing you on Facebook here.
Hey Nadia, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to it too.
So we'll see you soon, and thanks ever so much for being on the show tonight. It's awesome that you took the time for us. So we'll see you soon, and take care, Kipp. Thanks ever so much for being a guest on our show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. You guys have a great evening.
You too. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you on behalf of Melissa. Thank you on behalf of Mike. We'll speak to you soon. Take care. Good night.